and we're very proud to announce today a historic Sinaloa cartel arrest, and it marks the most significant victory in our nation's fight against fentanyl and drug trafficking to date.
17 raids, millions in cash, and fentanyl hidden in frozen shipments. Breaking. Federal agents seized over 1 million fentanyl pills.
This morning, the United States Department of Justice confirmed what many feared but few dared to say out loud. Minnesota has become the northern gateway for one of the most sophisticated fentanyl distribution networks ever discovered on American soil. At 5:47 a.m. Central Time, over 300 federal agents from the FBI, DEA, ICE, and DHS converged on 17 locations across Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rochester, and Duluth in what officials are now calling Operation Frozen Pipeline. The numbers are staggering. Over 1 million fentanyl pills, 42 kilograms of pure heroin, 17 kilograms of cocaine, 33 illegally modified firearms, and more than $8.4 million in cash, vacuum-sealed and hidden inside frozen food shipments at a halal meat processing warehouse. But that is not the worst part. The worst part is who made it all possible. The worst part is how deep the rot goes. The worst part is that the system designed to protect Minnesota families was turned into the infrastructure for a drug empire run by a trusted community leader and protected by officials who swore an oath to serve the public. And if you think this story is just about drugs, you are not ready for what comes next. The air over Minneapolis is frozen and still at 4:32 a.m. on a Wednesday morning in late January. No wind. No movement. Just the kind of deep winter silence that makes every sound feel like a gunshot. But beneath that silence, something is moving. Black Chevrolet Suburbans roll through empty streets with their lights off. Agents in tactical black gear check their radios one last time. They have been planning this for 11 months. 11 months of wiretaps, satellite tracking, undercover buys, and financial forensics. 11 months of watching a family-run network move fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine into the heartland with the efficiency of a Fortune 500 supply chain. And tonight, it all comes down. At exactly 4:47 a.m., the hammer drops. FBI and DEA breach teams hit 9 locations simultaneously across the Twin Cities metro area. The first target is a 3-story brick warehouse in South Minneapolis disguised as a halal meat distribution center. From the outside, it looks legitimate. Refrigerated trucks come and go. Workers in white coats load pallets of frozen lamb and chicken. But federal agents have been watching the data. They know that shipments coming in from the southern border through Chicago do not match invoices. They know the refrigerated trucks are making stops that do not appear on any delivery manifest. And they know that the family operating this warehouse has financial ties to shell companies in Dubai, Nairobi, and Tijuana that make no sense for a small Minneapolis food supplier. The lead agent raises his fist. Flashbang. The door explodes inward with a metallic crack that echoes down the block. SWAT operators flood inside, red laser sights cutting through the dark. Workers freeze. Hands go up. One man in the back tries to run toward a steel door marked, "Cold Storage Only." He does not make it 3 steps before 2 agents tackle him to the concrete floor. His duffel bag splits open. Inside, bundles of blue-tinted fentanyl pills spill across the floor like candy from a broken piñata. The agent in charge keys his radio. "We have product." Repeat, "We have major product." Within minutes, agents are pulling back false walls in the freezer section. What they find makes even the veteran narcotics investigators stop and stare. Row after row of vacuum-sealed packages hidden inside shipments of frozen goat meat and tilapia. Over 600,000 fentanyl pills. Enough to kill half the population of Minnesota twice over. Enough to flood every high school, every college campus, every truck stop, and every rural town in the upper Midwest for months. But the raid is just beginning. At the same moment, DEA tactical units are hitting a luxury townhouse in Edina, one of the wealthiest suburbs in the state. The target is a 41-year-old logistics coordinator who federal agents believe is the operational brain of the network. His home looks like a tech startup office. 3 desktop computers. A wall of external hard drives. 2 encrypted satellite phones sitting on a polished oak desk. Agents seize everything. They bag the phones. They image the hard drives on site. And within the first hour of forensic review, they find something that changes the entire scope of the investigation. A master ledger. Encrypted. Time-stamped. And labeled with a single code name, Project Northern Star. It is 7:14 a.m. inside the FBI's Minneapolis field office. The sun has not fully risen yet, but the lights in the cyber forensics lab have been on all night. 3 analysts sit hunched over glowing monitors, running decryption algorithms on the seized drives. When the first file unlocks, the lead analyst leans back in her chair and whispers one word, Jesus. What they are looking at is not just a drug operation. It is a corporate empire. On the screen is a network diagram that looks like something out of a Fortune 500 boardroom presentation. At the top is a name, Hassan Osman. Not his real name, because this story is fiction, but in this narrative, Hassan Osman is a respected Somali-American community organizer. A man who has been honored by the mayor. A man who sits on non-profit boards. A man whose family owns 6 halal grocery stores, 2 logistics companies, and a youth community center. And according to the files now open on the screen in front of federal investigators, Hassan Osman is also the architect of the largest fentanyl distribution ring in the northern United States. The ledger is meticulous. It shows shell companies in Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, and North Dakota. It shows wire transfers moving through accounts in Kenya, Somalia, Turkey, and Mexico. It shows partnerships with Mexican cartel suppliers, specifically a faction connected to the Sinaloa cartel, who ship bulk fentanyl precursors and finished pills north through Chicago using semi-truck routes disguised as food and textile shipments. It shows how Osman's network recruits young Somali-American men, many of them teenagers, to work as street-level distributors across Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Duluth. And it shows payments. Lots of payments. Monthly cash transfers to more than 30 individuals. Some of those names are street dealers. Some are truck drivers. And some are law enforcement officers and city officials. This is not corruption. This is command-level collusion. This is not a drug ring hiding in the shadows. This is a parallel system built inside the legitimate world, protected by money and silence, and enabled by people who were supposed to stop it. The forensic team keeps digging. One analyst pulls up a subfolder labeled Routes and Protection. Inside are spreadsheets showing how Osman's logistics teams coordinate shipments around police patrol schedules. Another file shows text message logs between a senior sergeant in the Minneapolis Police Department and one of Osman's lieutenants. The sergeant is giving advance warning about federal task force movements. He is paid $11,000 a month. Cash. Delivered in a white envelope at a coffee shop on Lake Street. Another file shows payments to a deputy director at the Minnesota Department of Transportation. His job? Make sure that certain way stations are closed for maintenance when Osman's refrigerated trucks pass through with air. Hidden cargo. The system was not broken. The system was rebuilt. And the person who rebuilt it was a man the community trusted. The sun is now fully up. It is 8:52 a.m., and inside a federal command center at the Minneapolis St. Paul Joint Operations Hub, a giant digital map covers the entire back wall. Across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and North Dakota, dozens of red markers pulse like heartbeats. Each one represents a location tied to Hassan Osman's network. A stash house in St. Cloud. A repackaging warehouse in Duluth. A fake non-profit office in Rochester that serves as a money laundering front. A truck depot in Fargo where drivers swap out cargo pallets in the middle of the night. The operation commander, a veteran DEA supervisor named Special Agent Marcus Delacroix, stands in front of the map with his arms crossed. Behind him, over 60 federal agents from the FBI, DEA, ICE, and DHS are gearing up for the second wave. Delacroix does not waste time. This is not a drug bust. This is a dismantling. We are taking down the entire structure. Top to bottom. Every stash house. Every front company. Every courier. Every dirty cop. We move in 12 minutes. Let's go. At exactly 9:04 a.m., Operation Frozen Pipeline enters its second phase. Across 4 states, federal strike teams launch simultaneous raids on 43 locations. In St. Paul, DEA agents storm a 3-bedroom house where young men are sitting at a kitchen table pressing fentanyl powder into pill molds with a hydraulic press. The agent sees over 200,000 pills that were minutes away from being bagged and shipped. In Duluth, a joint FBI-C team hits a shipping container yard where Hassan Osman's crew has been storing narcotics inside containers labeled as used clothing for charity export. Agents cut open the containers and find duffel bags stuffed with heroin bricks and methamphetamine. In Rochester, federal agents raid a supposed refugee assistance nonprofit. The front office looks legitimate. Computers. Pamphlets. Chairs for waiting clients. But in the back office, agents find a money counting machine still warm from use, and over $900,000 in cash stacked inside cardboard boxes labeled school supplies. And then there is the Edina estate, Hassan Osman's primary residence. It is a sprawling 5-bedroom home with a circular driveway, a 3-car garage, and a view of a private pond. Federal agents arrive with an armored SWAT vehicle and 2 Black Hawk helicopters circling overhead. Osman does not resist. He walks out with his hands raised, wearing a tailored suit and Italian leather shoes. He says nothing. His lawyer is already on the phone. But inside his home, agents find a hidden office behind a false wall in the basement. Inside that office is a steel safe. Inside that safe is another encrypted laptop, $2 million in cash, and a handwritten notebook detailing payoffs to law enforcement officials and city planners. One entry reads, February payment, Sergeant R. Bile, Minneapolis PD, $11,000. Protection Zone 3. Another entry reads, Judge K. Abdi, case dismissal, $22,000. The agents photograph everything. They bag it. They catalog it. And they know that this evidence will bring down more than just Hassan Osman. It will bring down an entire network of enablers who sold their badges, their oaths, and their integrity for cash delivered in frozen meat warehouses. By noon, the scale of the operation is becoming clear. Federal agents have seized over 1 million fentanyl pills, 42 kilograms of heroin, 17 kilograms of cocaine, 33 firearms, and more than $8.4 million in cash. They have arrested 62 individuals, including Hassan Osman, 4 of his brothers, 11 street-level distributors, 2 truck drivers, 1 logistics coordinator, and 3 law enforcement officers. The underworld in Minnesota took more damage in 6 hours than it has taken in the last 6 years. But the story does not end there. Because when federal forensic teams begin analyzing the seized servers and financial records, they discover something even more disturbing. Hassan Osman's network was not just operating in Minnesota. It was connected to a Continental pipeline. The investigation expands. Agents trace financial flows from Minnesota back through Chicago, then south to cartel contact points along the Texas-Mexico border. They find that Osman's network was receiving bulk fentanyl shipments from a Sinaloa cartel faction operating out of Culiacan. The pills were being pressed in clandestine labs in Mexico, smuggled across the border in Arizona and Texas, then transported north through interstate trucking routes disguised as furniture, frozen food, or agricultural equipment. From Chicago, Osman's drivers would pick up the shipments and distribute them across the upper Midwest, using Minnesota as a hub to reach Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota, and even rural areas of Montana. The operation was efficient. It was scalable. And it was designed to be invisible. Invoices were perfect. Truck manifests matched. Shell companies had clean tax filings. And anytime law enforcement got close, someone on the inside would send a warning, and the operation would shift routes. But the system had one weakness. Encryption can be broken. Money leaves trails. And people talk when they are facing 30 years in federal prison. Within 72 hours of the initial raids, 3 mid-level operators agree to cooperate. They give up names. They give up routes. They give up the cops who were on the payroll. And slowly, methodically, federal prosecutors begin building cases not just against Hassan Osman, but against the system that protected him. By the end of the week, arrest warrants are issued for 2 additional Minneapolis police officers, 1 Hennepin County deputy sheriff, 1 IC deportation officer who was tipping off Osman about federal investigations, and 1 Minnesota state legislator who used his position to delay oversight hearings into suspicious logistics companies operating in his district. The legislator's name, in this fictional story, is State Representative Victor Khalif. He has served 3 terms. He has been called a bridge builder. He has been praised for his work on immigrant integration policy. And according to seized financial records, he accepted over $170,000 in payments from shell companies controlled by Hassan Osman in exchange for legislative interference and information sharing. Inside the FBI field office, agents are reviewing patrol logs, dispatch records, and case files going back 4 years. They are trying to understand how deep the infiltration really went. What they find is chilling. Over a dozen criminal cases involving suspected drug trafficking were dismissed or reduced due to procedural errors or lack of evidence. In almost every case, the investigating officer was someone later identified as being on Osman's payroll. In some cases, patrol routes were altered the night before planned federal sweeps, allowing Osman's crews to move product without being seen. In one case, a confidential informant working with the DEA was compromised, and his identity was leaked to Osman's network. That informant disappeared. His body was never found. This was not negligence. This was engineered treason. This was a parallel enforcement system operating inside the legitimate one, designed to protect a drug empire that was killing Minnesotans. Every single day. The human cost is staggering. In the year before Operation Frozen Pipeline, Minnesota saw a 47% increase in fentanyl overdose deaths. Teenagers in suburban high schools were dying after taking what they thought were Percocet or Xanax pills, not knowing they were pressed fentanyl. Young fathers in Minneapolis were collapsing in gas station bathrooms. College students in Duluth were found unresponsive in dorm rooms. And in every case, investigators were finding the same blue-tinted pills. The same stamp. The same supply chain. All of it led back to Hassan Osman's network. All of it was preventable. And all of it continued because people in power chose money over lives. Federal prosecutors waste no time. Within 2 weeks, a grand jury returns indictments on 73 defendants. Hassan Osman is charged with conspiracy to distribute fentanyl and heroin, money laundering, racketeering, and operating a continuing criminal enterprise. If convicted on all counts, he faces life in prison without parole. His brothers face similar charges. The 3 law enforcement officers are charged with bribery, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. State Representative Victor Khalif is charged with corruption, bribery, and conspiracy to aid a criminal organization. His political career is over. His name will become a symbol of betrayal. And his constituents, many of whom are Somali-American families who believed in him, feel devastated and betrayed. But this story is bigger than one man. It is bigger than one family. It is bigger than one city. Because what Operation Frozen Pipeline exposed is a truth that law enforcement officials have been warning about for years. The cartels are not just operating along the southern border anymore. They are here. They are in the Midwest. They are in small towns and big cities. They are recruiting locally. They are corrupting locally. And they are killing locally. Fentanyl does not care about politics. It does not care about immigration debates. It does not care about community ties. It only cares about profit. And as long as there are people willing to move it, distribute it, and protect it, the killing will continue. This is not just a story about a raid. This is a story about power. About how power does not always announce itself with violence. Sometimes it just buys silence. Sometimes it buys ambition. Sometimes it buys a badge or a vote or a blind eye. This is a story about a system that was supposed to protect people but was quietly, methodically turned into a machine that fed addiction and death. And this is a story about the cost of looking the wrong way when corruption whispers your name. If you are still watching, tap like so more people see this story. Comment expose if you believe corruption should be dragged into the light. Share this video if you think every community deserves to know when their leaders betray them. Because this story is fictional, but the warning is real. The cartels are adapting. The systems are vulnerable. And the only way to stop them is to refuse to stay silent. Operation Frozen Pipeline is over. Hassan Osman is in federal custody. His network is dismantled. His money is seized. His protection is gone. But the work is not finished. Federal investigators are still tracing financial connections across the country. They are still identifying corrupted officials. They are still mapping routes and identifying cartel contacts. Because this was not just one network. This was one example of what is happening in dozens of cities across America. And until we confront that reality, until we hold every betrayer accountable, until we rebuild trust in the systems designed to protect us, the danger remains. This is the story of how a family fortress in Minnesota became a fentanyl pipeline. This is the story of how trust was weaponized. And this is the story of how federal agents fought back. Remember this, silence protects no one. Corruption grows in the dark. And the only way to win is to turn on the lights and refuse to look away.